everyone, my name is Jennifer Woods, and today I'm going to be discussing the 1992 TV movie, The Stepfather 3. The first Stepfather movie came out in 1987 and was very reminiscent of the true story of John List, who killed his family and then started a new life in hiding with a new wife. What's funny is that he was actually caught a couple of years after the first Stepfather movie was released. The second movie starred Jonathan Brandis as the son of a single mother. Terry O'Quinn reprised the role of the stepfather. In The Stepfather 3, the main character is played by Robert Whiteman because the title character had plastic surgery by an unlicensed physician whom he went on to kill. This movie serves as an important lesson in red flags to look out for when choosing the stepfather of your beloved only child. Maybe if Christine Davis had watched my video, she would have been spared a headache or two. So to begin, the fact that he's had plastic surgery and looks nothing like his original self is red flag number one. If you meet a guy who looks nothing like an escaped serial killer, you want to stop to think about why he looks nothing like him, because everyone has the potential to look like an escaped convict if you give them an honest chance. If they look nothing like them, they've probably had work done. What are they hiding? Moving on. The female lead, Christine Davis, meets Keith Grant at church. He's dressed as a bunny and handing out candy to children. Sirens are going off over here. What's he doing forcing a conversation with her preteen son in a wheelchair? Someone check an online registry and see if he's on it. If he's not, that's a clear sign he's changed his name. In all seriousness, though, I find it a bit suspect that he looks to be in his 30s or 40s and he's still single. He will say later on that he's never been married before, so a single 30 or 40-something man who's never been married before attending church and handing out candy to children while dressed as a bunny. I don't want to be discriminatory. After all, some people choose not to get married, but this is a guy who wants a family. He claims to be a family man, so there are some things that are not adding up and some questions that need to be asked before getting too serious with him. I want to point out that the leading female in this has a son named Andy whose best friend is a priest, so maybe this little family is not the best at picking up on warning signs. In this movie, the priest is a wonderful human being who is kind to Andy and has normal everyday conversations with him about true crime and solving mysteries. Typical stuff priests and young boys talk about. You know. Andy has a computer system called Computective that spits out clues and he has to figure out who done it. He and Father Brennan have a friendly bet going on who will solve the latest mystery. Christine is hesitant to take her friend's advice and ask Keith out because she doesn't have much luck with guys. She's divorced and her most recent boyfriend turned out to be a disaster. She should trust her instincts here. Clearly she's not got good taste in men, and her most recent ex actually shows up at the church Easter dance to take her away from Keith when she does finally decide to approach him. And this ex named Mark makes it clear that he's not the kind of person who takes no for an answer. So he's a big bundle of red flags himself. The next suspicious thing that caught my eye with Keith is that their first date is at Christine's house. She cooks him dinner. Why does he expect a woman to be the one to do the cooking? He could have taken her out to eat, or made dinner himself. I'm thinking a public restaurant is the best place to have a first date with a new guy in town. While talking over dinner, Andy notices that there are some possible inconsistencies in the backstory Keith gives them. For example, Andy points out that he once said he was a realtor and yet now he works with plants. Keith has an answer for that. He also did real estate. A jack of all trades then. Convenient. I would be suspicious of the new guy in town who claims to be a jack of all trades because it's a great way for him to explain away any slip-ups when he's talking about his past. Andy mentions that their town of Deerview is great if you like cemeteries, so apparently Keith picked a town that's known for its cemeteries. Interesting. Keith says he likes the small-town charm of the place. You know what also has small-town charm? A cozy little small-town murder. He later shows up at the nursery school where Christine works in order to give her flowers and say thank you for dinner the other night. I don't know about this guy tracking her down at her place of business. That seems like stalker business. There's a little girl named Tiffany begging Ms. Davis to take her to the bathroom, but Christine is so caught up in her conversation with this cute new guy in town that she can't be bothered and basically tells her to get lost. If you find yourself so transfixed by a man that you're willing to let a little child pee their pants, that's the sign that you're maybe too invested and this guy has clearly worked some kind of voodoo magic on your brain. Christine and Keith make plans to have a picnic lunch on Sunday, and then Mark shows up at her school. What is it with these stalker guys she dates? This time, she ignores Tiffany because she's too busy telling Mark she can't be bothered with him. Maybe Christine should own a little bit of the problem here. Christine and Keith abandon Andy in his wheelchair at the park on Sunday so that they can go for a nice little walk, just the two of them. Keith asks Christine what happened with Andy and why he has no use of his legs. I understand he's curious about the son of the woman he's romantically interested in, but the way he asks the question isn't very tactful. Kind of abrupt. Not that there is an easy way to ask such a question, but still, he could have shown a little more compassion. The mother says the doctors think the paralysis is all in his mind and that he should be able to walk. Keith says he has hope that he will be able to help Andy recover his walking ability. He will end up curing Andy, but only because Andy develops a desire to basically get himself and his mother as far away from Keith as possible. I won't say anything more about that, though. Anyone who hasn't seen the movie will just have to watch it. As Keith is saying goodbye to Christine and Andy in their driveway, we discover that Christine probably drove them to the park because Keith's work truck is parked nearby. He took his work truck with him on a date. I doubt they were all able to fit in that thing, so clearly Christine drove. She's having to do everything in this relationship so far. What is he bringing to the table? Bad News Mark is spying on the three of them as they talk in the driveway. He later surprises Keith at his home as Keith is about to do some gardening. Never a good sign when a weird guy who's new to town shows an interest in planting flowers in his back garden. Mark tells Keith that Christine belongs to him. They've been seeing each other for a few months, and apparently it's serious in his mind. Anyway, now that Mark has approached Keith and spoken to him in the privacy of Keith's garden, he won't be bothering Christine anymore. Keith whistles Camptown Races because that's something a killer with a penchant for gardening would do. The song also made an appearance in the second movie. The priest, who I want to remind you has chosen the celibate life, is now giving a sermon on family and how important it is. I wonder if this has planted a seed in Christine's mind. We already know this has been part of Keith's plan from the start. Apparently, Andy has a turtle that crawls all over his keyboard as he works on his computer. I don't trust a boy who lets his reptile roam free like that. But Andy is the only sane person in this movie so far, so I won't read too much into it. Keith comes to tuck him in. I think Keith is being a little too friendly with this boy he barely knows when it's still the early stages of his relationship with Christine. Andy has some reservations about Keith too. He's told his best friend the priest that Keith is a big phony, and it's true. That is a huge red flag when someone tries way too hard to ingratiate himself into a family that doesn't belong to him, especially when it happens so quickly. Keith is already acting like he's Andy's father, but as we'll find out later, Andy already has a father, a loving, attentive one too. Keith and Christine decide to get married because she wants to go all the way, but he wants to wait until they've made it official. He says it in a way where it sounds like the lead-in to a creepy proposal. She's only known him for a short time, but what the heck? Let's go for it. Any man who rushes a woman into marriage probably wants to tie her down before she has an opportunity to learn about his dark side. And by the way, the name Keith Grant sounds completely made up. Sorry to anyone out there named Keith Grant. Andy is unhappy with this turn of events. He does not care for his new stepfather. His mother should be paying attention to that frown on his face. I know Keith says he's just adjusting to his new normal, but if the mother actually took a moment to talk with Andy, she would probably find that conversation enlightening. More inconsistencies come out. Keith says in front of Andy that his family is in Louisville, but he said before that he was from Charleston. He has an answer for everything. Andy tells the priest the sky is just a walking question mark, but the priest tells him to stop imagining things. That's something I would expect a priest to tell the little boy he's particularly fond of. Keith begins to let his guard down with Andy. He makes him play a game of football one day. Andy notices scars behind his ears, which Keith explains away, but which we know is a result of the plastic surgery. Keith throws the football at Andy, causing Andy to fall out of his chair. And instead of showing concern and helping him up, Keith starts to give him a hard time, saying he's not trying hard enough to get back up in his chair. He accuses him of whining. The mother's not home. But why do I get the feeling that if she was, she'd just have a little chat with Keith and be like, go easy on him next time. The mother does start having her doubts, though, when she sees how adamant Keith is about preventing Andy from spending some quality time at a computer camp and with his father over the summer. He should be happy for the kid, but he's acting like a big spoiled baby. At first, the mother seems proud of the fact that she's picked a caring family man to be a stepfather to her son, but then she starts to realize that Keith is being unreasonable. And it's true, a reasonable man wouldn't respond to his stepson spending time with his biological father by going outside with an axe at night and angrily chopping some wood. And a reasonable man wouldn't respond by having an affair with another single mother who's about to rent his cottage. Apparently he's looking for a person to rent his cottage because he's living with his new wife in her house, but he can't tell this to the other woman, Jennifer. When she asks him why he's renting out the place, he says it's because he moved out of town while he still had 5 months left on his lease. Not sure why that would put her mind at ease. I'd be asking, oh my gosh, what happened? Is the place haunted? Are you on the run from the law? Did you up and marry someone unexpectedly? She asks none of these questions. She just lets it go. This is a woman who looks a lot like a dark-haired Beverly D'Angelo, who also made some questionable decisions in the movies I've seen her act in. Meanwhile, Andy is still at his father's house and hears on the news about a serial killer who escaped and got plastic surgery. He gets really into the details. Andy's biological father seems to be quite supportive of his passion for true crime. All he asks is that he make it to the dinner table on time and get adequate rest. This is compared to his mother and stepfather, who basically make him feel like he's some weirdo they can't relate to. I'm starting to think Andy should be living with his father on a permanent basis. He's got the sweetest wife and seems to be doing well for himself. Meanwhile, Christine is over there making questionable life choices and dragging her son around for the ride. Andy does some sleuthing to determine whether or not his stepfather is the escaped killer they're talking about on the news. He enlists the help of his priest friend. Keith is starting to have suspicions of his own. Christine and Jennifer meet when Jennifer enrolls her son, who looks way older than 4, in nursery school. And Christine starts to have suspicions when her husband calls her son by the name of Jennifer's son, Nicky. And when she finds out Jennifer recently moved into a cottage on the same road where Keith rented a cottage. And Keith has regular access to a shredder at the plant nursery where he works. This is not going to end well. But I won't spoil anymore. I give this movie 4 stars when grading it on a curve. It's mindless entertainment, no matter how many times I watch it. It definitely does serve as a wake-up call to women who think it's a good idea to go on a few dates with a mysterious man and then up and marry him. Here's another movie, like Mother May I Sleep with Danger, where she didn't meet the guy's family first. In this case, he didn't even tell her they were dead, which is true in his case because he killed them. She just acted like his past was his past and irrelevant to their future. Well, I hope she learned a lesson anyway and will make better choices in the future, for her son's sake. But he proved himself to be quite the match for that Keith fellow. That kid is going places. I wouldn't be surprised if he started a true crime channel on YouTube. That's something I could see him doing well at. So thank you for watching. If you liked my video and you want to see more, please subscribe, and I would love to hear your comments in the comment section. Have a great day.